Hello hero, it's Lucy Lannon. It's good to see you. You've seen the title, so at this stage you know more about today's reading than I do, since I speak to you from the recent alternate past. This is a general, timeless one, ideally designed for quite a large audience, so we won't get as specific as we would in a private booking, link down below. If most of what I'm saying feels like an answer to a question you've been living, take those tidbits with you and let a fellow traveller excavate the rest. If it's not your reading, there are playlists on my channel hub to randomise finding something else. Whilst it's true that a broken clock is right twice a day, I'm not sure that same clock is right 10 times within the hour. So trust yourself, above all, to know what's useful for you and what makes you feel more empowered for hearing it, no matter what your beliefs. While we're on beliefs, on this channel gendered terms are just a specificity of language to describe energetic tendencies and signatures, solar or lunar inclination in accordance with a hermetic law of polarity, and not any kind of socialisation to buy into wholesale or conflate with the identity or orientation of anyone described. Romantic and spiritual labels used are plucked from lengthy precedent predating any unfortunate trending controversies or engineered cyclical backlash. My dude, around these parts, we don't relinquish the complexity of our full histories. We trust ourselves cognitively to adapt what we consume and see what's healthy and long-term accurate. I'm legally obliged to say this is entertainment in quote marks and that I'm an occultist not qualified in unrelated disciplines to advise on physical and mental health, finances, legalities. You get the picture, you're in charge of you. All my readings are protected and warded by frankly magnificent beneficial forces, though I don't share my custom prep rituals on camera any more than I give out my address. I hope the reasoning behind that is obvious, but you can trust there are zero parasitic or adversarial influences permitted within 100 unseen paces of any signal we patch from the noise here today. So sit back, relax into the shape of your most luminous possible future self, cozy up to imaginal allies, and take in whatever it is you need to hear. If you do like it, this small channel with a big mission very much appreciates subscriptions, thoughtful comments, or donations in order to spread the word and keep the lights on. Now, let's tune that dial. Right. This has been a complex shuffle, as you might have witnessed, right? So firstly, I should say we're using the Twin Peaks deck, the long-standing deck on this channel, beautiful Bob Ross cards, and a new deck for this channel, Sights of London, which are some playing cards that I bought in a gift shop on my way to like a cinema screening. But also wanting to participate is the DIY Love deck. Now, usually I would say that doesn't mean it's a love reading, it just means that something wants to be communicated. From the cards we have, actually, I think it is a love reading, but it's odd for it to be asking to have you pay attention to it. And your keyword, as you'll see from the title, is gravity. Let's turn the time, shall we? So, alright, let's start with these communication cards. So we've got our comfortable silences or delectable. Can we be exclusive, please? I'm slurring my words, so someone's finding it hard to say stuff. And I'm finding the right words to tell you how I feel. Now, there's a bit of frustration on the other end of this. I sense that's somebody maybe speaking to you, but switch it as you see fit. And at your end, there's the Bob energy, which is the Four of Pentacles, which can be quite, I'm keeping my reserves. I'm saving this for myself. I don't want to share yet. I don't know what the situation is. I'm feeling, it's not defensive exactly. It's just like, listen, I got myself where I am, and I am where I be. I feel like perhaps you spent a while single, or you're just in a certain pattern with somebody that makes you quite comfortable, and you're like not really open to communication that might further that. Even if you want it, there might be a sense that like you're pushing against it in some fashion, or there's a bit of resistance. And again, I picked that up a couple of readings ago, so it might be a follow-on. But yeah, it says that's a crooked tree, we'll send him to Washington, right? Which usually is my card of like, that guy. This is not what Bob meant, but it's very much like, that guy's not behaving, we'll send him to Washington. It's very like, it makes me think of like, old embarrassing things of the British Empire where they'd be like, oh, I'll send him to Burma, or, you know, it's very like dismissal with privilege. And I'm not saying that you're privileged, and I'm not saying you're dismissive. What I'm saying is that there might be a problematic element from your perception coming from the other end of this communication that has made you be like, oh, just send them away, whoever they are. I can't be doing with it. I'm in my routine. I've got my 4 pentacles. I know where I'm living. Work's going all right. You know, I finally kind of got myself together. I don't need. Oh, I heard from Spirit say I don't need some fuckboy crashing through it. So there may be a perception from your end that this person is promiscuous, whatever gender they identify as, whatever gender you are. That's neither here nor there on this channel, just express as you want, right? And this is a general reading for a large audience. If you want more specificity, the best thing is to book with me. But there's just this sense of like, oh, you're going to be messing about. I'm quite happy, or I'm not happy, but I'm like sorted. And yeah, I want love, but right now, I mean... And then there's a 5 of clubs clarifying this because I needed a little help. It's a very confusing energy from your end, right? I will say that. It's like you're sort of asking for this and coming for a love reading, but at the same time there's like a not now though. Maybe after I finish this, yeah? And even then, you might have to enter a Thunderdome first. So there's a kind of 5 of Wands, which is a little bit aggy, a little bit confrontational again. But it's kind of the defense of the 4 pentacles, so it's like the dragon to the treasure, if you like. And this one is, you can move mountains, rivers, trees. You can determine what your world is like. You can determine what your world is like. That will become important with the keyword gravity. I feel like we're talking about gravity because there is a simultaneous energy, perhaps with you, dear listener, or perhaps with someone else that you're dealing with, where there is a person who simultaneously gives you a sense of being secured to the earth, and maybe even secured in yourself, and a sense of feeling solid, and feeling in place, and like all is right with the world, like the forces that should be there are there. And then simultaneously there is a fear that this will drag you down, that this will anchor you to the earth. I'm now thinking of a poem that I wrote called Anchor, which I may read out to you, I may not. It was a poem for someone, so it's quite private, but it's just buzzing out to me as like, this might be relevant. Should I? Looks like we're doing it. Looks like I'm putting my private business in a public forum. 2 seconds. Let me just, we're back, we've got it. I did cut this, partly because my name is actually on this book and I don't really want, Lucy is not my full name, shall we say. I don't really want that out there. But the poem, Anchor. Descend then, and I will wind your ropes through fingers of weed and thawing crystals, arcing tiny bubble trails of raw erasure around flushed plantar, blanched clavicle, tearing through my siphon and sinew in thick mammatus flourishes where the sky inverts to sea. Descend then, and I will gaze up into the waves glimmering, gaze down into the currents which throb to wrench you under. I can ne'er be split asunder, nor be trolled from where our delphinous voices clicked echoes like static through water. If the pressure punishes, I will open my breadth, fast as you are low. I will grin a row of pearls to haul you back with ease, kicking against the densities I feared to think of your face as a soft glow emerging, fronds of hair calmly drifting, while I remember how to swim ashore. So, oceanic stuff may be relevant, and that was in response to the book that I actually gifted it inside as well. But there's a thing here about like, that's a very romantic notion of like, if you're being anchored, if maybe somebody's mental health at the other end isn't the best, if you feel that they're descending, if they feel that the pressure on them is increasing, there is a sense of the other person kind of hauling them up, or inviting them up, or singing them up, or something like that. But then at the same time, within that relationship, there is the sense that the anchor person is kind of pulling potentially the top person down, right? So it's this very symbiotic relationship, and that might be something that terrifies you, that terrifies your person, that reeks of codependency in some way, or that brings out avoidant tendencies in one or the other. It's kind of simultaneously a reassurance that you are tethered to each other. And I'm thinking of the film Gravity now, right? And Sandra Bullock being tethered to something as opposed to wheeling out in space. But also like a fear of like, well, if you're tethered to the wrong thing and that thing starts spinning out or that thing starts sinking, what happens to me then, right? So there's this sense of like, gravity is a fantastic thing and it keeps us functioning here on Earth. But it can also be the thing that drags a relationship into the dust, or the thing that binds us down, or I'm now thinking of The Expanse and gravity torture. It can be kind of used against the people who are subject to it in that way that kind of love and relationships can. And there is an undercurrent of fear here from you or them that there will be too much gravity to this, or there is too much gravity. It's not too serious necessarily, because I think it could be quite a creative vibe with us getting poetry in it. But it's like there's a potential for weight. And I don't know whether that's because one or the other or both of you, or a group if this is a polycule thing. I mean, it uses you see fit, but somebody in this reading might be affected by mental health issues or heavy circumstances, or like me, disability, or just something that's like pulling on that tether and influencing the other person to be like, do I really want to be attached, even by a cord of love, even by like, now I'm hearing that, what's the Bjork song about being tethered to the other person? Is it Unravel? I'll link it if I remember, but that's a really good analogy for this in the positive as well. But there's a sense of like, even in that good way, do I want to be connected to somebody by that thread? Or is that a really dangerous thing for me at this time? Or something that threatens to like dredge down the things that are kind of afloat for me, right? So it's almost like with that Four of Pentacles and with that like, oh, send him to Washington, I can't be bothered. That might be literal for some of you. You might be like, let him go to Washington, let them go to Washington. They might be choosing that or whatever. And you're like, yeah, just fucking go. But there's a feeling of like, because if I don't do that, I can see myself being really tied to this person in a more serious way than perhaps I've contemplated before. And without giving too much away about my personal life, the person who received that poem is someone that I have contemplated a very serious tether to, whether that be sort of in the potential of a future, or in the connection of a present where I feel a great deal of responsibility to a person, and vice versa. And in fact, there was a bit of conflict as to like who feels what amount of responsibility for each other, and who is under pressure and who is feeling overwhelmed by pressure. So gravity is really a suitable thing. But this is not my reading. There are energies coming into this that is not about that. I think I was just supposed to give you the analogy of that particular dynamic, because you need to decide how you feel about the word gravity. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's open to interpretation, because I don't do that in readings. It's very much my job to decide what we're reading about. But what I mean is, which camp do you fall into? That fall into you might, is that a song? That might be relevant. I don't know, that doesn't register for me, but it might for you, I don't know. Hit me up in the comments if it's a thing. Yeah, which do you fall into? Is it that you feel that there is somebody in your life who can provide a certain amount of like gravity, where you feel maybe unmoored, and it's like a good grounding thing? This person might be very earthy, or might be very practically minded in a way that you're not, or they might just make you feel like you belong in a place, or like you're kind of doing the correct things with yourself. Or is it the other way, where it's like, if I am tethered to anyone, I have to deal with the gravitational pull of that person. I have to deal with either spinning out in space or sinking down into the ocean and being tied to that. And that's not something I want for myself, right? And that's, I mean, either position is something I respect, and you're all coming to here with different circumstances. Sorry, Theda. But I feel like it's that choice, and I feel like this choice is happening for you as the person receiving the reading, as opposed to the person who's saying these things about exclusivity, comfortable silences, and finding the right words. With the finding the right words, I think they might find it difficult to express to you adequately at whatever stage of the relationship you are, whether it's that you haven't exchanged feelings or whether it's that you've been married 20, 30 years and you're just having a bit of a communication dip because there's a lot on right now. There's something here about, because gravity is something that you can like feel, right? It's a force that you experience kind of before you name what it is. So there's almost like they can sense the weight or the gravity or the mass or whatever in the situation. Almost like before you've given it that name or said that it's occurring. And I think that that's what's making them nervous. I don't think it's any of the usual reasons is what I'm going to say, because it could be a few things, I'm not going to list them. But I think it's that they're picking up on an energy from you, which is a bit like, There's also something about place in this, because when I got this size of London deck, it was because usually I carry tarot cards around with me, and I was going to a particular place where I knew I'd need a deck, both for someone else and for myself. And I was going past a London gift shop, because that's where I am at the minute. And I just needed something quick, and I was like, oh, well, if it's sites of London, I can use the places that I'm seeing and the people that they remind me of as an additional divination thing on top of the fact that it's card deck, right? So we'll hopefully be doing some of that in a second. But because it is locational and because it is very tied to something, and actually the gift shop that I chose was very tied to a specific set of friends and even a specific person within that friendship group, there's something here about that, about like, again, with the anchor stuff, being anchored into a community. And again, is that something you want? Is that something that's beneficial? And then it's like, actually, yeah, no, I do need the gravity of being maybe associated with a person who's got like set third spaces and set friends who I get on with, and that's a really healthy thing. And that might be something to ground me when I'm feeling very all over the place with other decisions, and be like a good repetition or a good grounding. And if you built anything like me, that can be a really positive thing, because if I was left to my own devices, it'd be like, I'm over here, I met this person, I don't see them for 2 years, I met this person, oh, we're best friends, oh, I won't speak to you for 4. You know, it's like, it could be a really grounding thing. Or, equally, if you're in the other camp, the idea of going to the same location a lot, being around the same people, maybe even doing the same activities repeatedly, because that's something that it reminds me of as well, in a not bad way. But is that a bad thing from your perspective, and is that what we're exploring here? I guess I'm asking you all of this rhetorically, and you already know the answer, you already know where you fall, but I think I'm doing like the equivalent of a journal prompt here with you to say like, okay, but which bits are really niggling at you though? Like which, if you feel that this is too much gravity, too much of an anchor, too much weight, what specifically is it? Because there's something in that as well that is not necessarily to do with this person or your relationship to them. It's like, it's an extra bit where it's not just about you and them, it's about you and where they hang out, or it's about you and a specific person and their friendship group, or a colleague of theirs, or I'm hearing for some of you an ex that you know that might be affiliated with their group as well. There's just something that's a plus to that, and I don't quite know what it is, but you will know. Let's get into Twin Peaks and then let's go back to places. So, can I have an underground? No, we're not doing that yet. Okay. Sorry, guys. Alright, so is this the querent? Yes and no? Is it mostly the querent? No. Okay. This person's had a recent grief or bereavement or some kind of conflict within the family, particularly a same-sex sibling or someone that functions in that way in their life. Like, if it's not a brother or a sister or something, it's somebody who's like a brother or like a sister that they've had some kind of recent, either it's like an altercation or they've lost them altogether, because this is a grief card, but we're seeing Donna and her sister on it, right? And we're seeing them in the home environment, which makes me think it's like familial or closer. yeah, I think that's like kind of all you need to know from that card, because this is kind of recent past stuff. But that is setting the context for, it makes it even more difficult for them to speak to you following that, because they might feel emotionally drained, or they might have, I mean, God forbid they've lost somebody, but you know, grief does funny things, whether it's small grief or large grief, whether it's grief in a bereavement sense or in a kind of life sense. And there's something here where they're grieving the relationship that they had to somebody else for some reason. Again, this won't be for all of you, but for some of you, what I'm getting is that they're grieving the relationship to somebody that they knew, that they can no longer have the same dynamic with if they step into this with you. This person may have been like a sister or like a brother to them, or they may have been like best friends, but in a way that either you've sort of brought up that it's not something you see as particularly healthy, or they feel that they can't have that same closeness of dynamic if they're in a serious relationship, or if their relationship with you deepens, even if it's marriage, you know, you do you. But then there's something also simultaneous to them having a relationship with that person that's experiencing grief anyway. So that won't be applicable for all of you. For some of you it will hit me up in the comments if that's you, and if you feel comfortable speaking about it. But for others it's just like, there has been the end of a chapter with someone who is like a sibling, even if it's like their parent is like a sibling, like because they have that sort of brotherly relationship or sisterly thing, or it's something with someone really, really close that is looking really third house for you astrologers, or is someone with strong Gemini might be a thing as well, or something that happened in Gemini season, which would be late May, beginning of June, right? Yeah. So that's the context for some of this, and I feel like that will illuminate some stuff for you that defrazzles this crooked tree that you want to send to Washington. It kind of goes like, oh, okay, well that does make sense, or that does put that into context. Maybe this person isn't as, I want to say dysfunctional, or maybe they aren't straightforwardly exhibiting the kinds of things that I thought were the case, or there's like more to it, right? Present tense, this person, I mean, I feel like this is just a depiction of them, whatever gender, just kind of planning what to say, because the log in this instance with a magician or a practicing magician in the show, is almost like a communication from beyond, right? The log lady, I mean, yes, in the expanded law it's to do with her relationship with her husband as well, but she communicates kind of the voice of the lodges, or of the magical traditions, the spiritual traditions, if you like, through messages from the log that only she can hear. It's very tarot coded, actually. It's you know, and in doing so, she gives both the audience and some of the characters kind of cryptic things to solve that help unlock what's going on within the mystery of the series, and help people kind of solve the riddle of this small town. So for someone to be staring at this, if your person is spiritually inclined, I think they're reading about this, or they're asking whatever it is that they believe in to help them to move forward with this. For some of you it's a Venusian thing as well, because of the Venus de Milo in the background in the lodge. And for others of you, there is a maternal relationship that they're consulting, which may not be with us, just because of the way that that statue is sort of covering one breast, right? It's a weird thing, I know, but it's just going to be some of you. But there is like almost a maternal guide that they're turning to. So if you know that they are magically inclined and they work with like a mother goddess or something, that's what that is. And if it's not that, or they're not magically inclined, it's just that they are contemplating the communication, perhaps in the context of a mother, or of someone who is maternal towards them, giving them advice, or an older woman who is kind of weighed in on the situation in some way, and they're trying to craft what it is they're going to say. They're literally trying to find the right words, as we found in this card, right? Near future is the Fool. And yes, it is Andy, so he is kind of a bozo, but at the same time it's very much like someone expressing without fear, somebody kind of progressing forward, whether or not it's a good idea, really. Like, it's almost as if they've made the decision that they're going to say what they want to say, but they can't afford to go about it too delicately past a certain point. Like, they're meticulously planning it in advance, right? So again, this might be a very earthy person. They might be, or very airy. They might be sort of a planner, or they might be particularly meticulous about communication, particularly because we've got poetry. So they're like, they need to be exact on the wording. But once they've applied that degree of precision to what it is that they're going to say, they kind of need to throw everything else to the wind and just do it. And they know that about themselves. The person that I'm thinking of in relation to this is a friend who has extremely strong earth, like stellium in earth, very gifted with air stuff and is a writer, but also has an Aries stellium. And it's very much like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to throw my life into the air and see what lands, in an adorable way, but also in a way where you think, God, you are so articulate the rest of the time. And then suddenly you click into that Aries and it's all like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm just going to do it. And sometimes that's to their advantage, sometimes it's to their detriment, but that's the sort of juxtaposition between these two cards that we're seeing here. It's like someone who is very much planning what they're going to say because they find you to be an important figure for them, maybe a figure of gravity, right? Because it goes both ways. But it's kind of like once they've articulated what it is that they mean, they know that they need to be less cautious about the process of just delivering that information. And we didn't get a page, we got a major, so they might be very good at this, but they know that in order to be very good at it, they just have to go, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And that is, it could be crooked tree behaviour, let's be real, but it could also go the other way and just be like, coming out as very honest, very truthful, very sweet, which is what the character of Andy is, right? And he ultimately, again, he is very key, very instrumental to solving the overall mystery in a satisfying way, and to kind of, I don't want to say defeating the bad guys, because Twin Peaks is a lot more nuanced than that, but he's part of the book house, but he's fighting the good fight, is what I want to say. So I think this person is quite pure, in the older sense of the word, not in any sense of like sexual purity and all that bullshit. They can be very sort of innocent in their core, but they're aware that sometimes they can express themselves quite far distance away from what it is that they're actually meaning, and so they're stepping back literally as we talk about this, and they're contemplating what it is they're going to say so that they can be less cautious. It's like a caution so that you can be not cautious. And what I'm hearing is the Scout's motto, right? Be prepared. So it's like they're planning, and then there's no planning, and it's just like time. And I think that's why you're getting this now. Because when gravity hits, you can't avoid it, right? When all of this comes down, when they say what they're going to say, you're going to have to know your response. And you can't be like, can I get back to you in 3 to 7 business days when I feel comfortable? It's going to be a really spur of the moment thing where you have to respond in that same spirit, essentially. This is the undercurrent of the reading, and we have a 3 of Cups reversed. Again, with this thing of like, if this is to do with your caution about how it is that deepening the relationship might change your life, there might be something here to do with a friendship group that you're not 100% kosher with, or a particular friend. That might be the sibling thing, or it might be something else, but there's certainly like an environment being turned on its head, or something that they do habitually with a group that is not something that fits into your life. With you getting a 4 of Pence earlier in the Bob Ross cards, for some of you it's giving like you're putting a lot into your professional life and indeed into your reputation just in general as a person, and you might be someone who's had quite a glow up in terms of presenting like the circles that you want to move in, rather than presenting not as necessarily as your authentic self, because I don't think you're hiding yourself, but presenting as your former self when you kind of didn't know better how to best come across, I want to say. You've done a lot of tweaking to be able to move through certain environments, let's say that, and I think it might have a professional context for some of you, or even like in dating, you might have eliminated certain physical ways of dressing, ways of behaving, maybe even ways of relating to somebody within that early dynamic, to make sure that you're ruling out, I want to say, some of the fuckery that you've come across before. And right there with you. And I want to say that all of these relationships that I'm kind of referencing here tie into that for me as well. So it's like a confirmation from my end. And I think that maybe there is something to do with this person's social circle or family, or like their habitual place that they go with these place cards, that in your perception would hold you back or would maybe damage some of that progress that you've made. And that needs to be a conversation. But I don't think it's one they're anticipating, so I think you're maybe nervous about having it. So what's the overt? What? What is that? I made that noise then, involuntarily, and I'm thinking of those things you turn over as a kid that go, ooh-ah, ow, ooh-ah. You know the things I mean? They've come up in a reading before and I can't remember what they were supposed to signify there. So that may just be a confirmation if you've come from a reading on my playlist. Hi, thank you. Or to do the playlist after this. But there's something else about that. And again, that works through gravity, right? Because it's a thing inside a tube that goes down when you flip it. So what is that about, universe? That's gravity and vibration. I think you think that they're going to change your energy that you emit. That's why it had to be like a vibrating sound and a thing that is influenced by the gravity of an object, right? In this case, the love object. We're not here objectifying people on this channel, but you know what I mean? Like, because we're reading for a person that is clearly a love object for you, or maybe even an object of limerence, who knows? But it's like, they're going to go down whatever, and that down doesn't mean bad, right? But gravity is going to hit them whatever. Whichever way you turn the relationship, they're going to be pulled towards the floor. And the sound that's made, or the vibration that's emitted from that thing of you sort of turning it and trying it to be a different way, and then kind of staying in the same relationship to where the ground is because gravity's real, that's going to like influence the sound that comes out, right? Because, talking about sounds. Usually that's my protection work sign, so you might feel you've protected yourself from certain elements in terms of like the behaviours that you used to have, or the sorts of people you used to run with, or like exposure to certain things. I want to say certain addictions or certain habits, or even like maybe certain mindsets for some of you, because we're talking about vibration. And it's like you're afraid that you need to do protection work because if this person's gravity is constantly there, no matter which way you're turning, you're scared that the vibration will influence you. There is an air coming through in this of a bit of like, how do I say this without being offensive to you? It's almost like a spiritual whitewashing energy that I'm not 100% on board with, if I'm honest. There's like a feeling of like, oh, you're going to affect all the progress I've made, which to me says that there's some shadow work at your end that still needs to be done, right? And I do have stuff for that in the shop and self-concept readings and stuff like that, but you don't have to pay for anything from me. You just have to be here. Please click like if it's helpful. But it's like, there's something here about like almost you projecting that who they run with or what it is that they spend their time doing is going to alter your vibration, as if you're on such a level that I want to say you're like looking down on them in a way. And I think they're picking up on it, and I think it's affecting their confidence in just saying what it is that they want to say to you, right? And of the cards I was holding, the one that just fell down then and came out was the Knight of Swords, which was Big Ed, who is a lovely character, right? And he like, I would want Big Ed in my corner, but also he is judged by some of the people in the town. So there's that sense of them wanting to rush in with this message, like a Knight of Swords, maybe feeling a little bit scared that it's going to be the wrong wording, like a Knight of Swords. But they're kind of picking up on that energy from you of, I want to say like spiritual judgment, or like a judgmental energy around their friends. And that I'm not accusing you of anything that I haven't done, right? But there is a component of that. And particularly with this Three of Cups reversed entering in, it's almost like you think that you think that their vibe and their group is going to lower your chances of getting to where it is that you're going. But the thing is that if it's where you're going, you won't be influenced by other people's vibration. If you've truly done the work and you've done the shadow work as well, and you can admit about yourself the components that you fear in those other people, then it won't affect you, whatever they're doing, whether they're pulled down by gravity, whether they're pulled in different directions by different people, right? Or whether they're sort of having to edit the way that they relate to people around them, because those people might have got the wrong idea, or they're not like in congruence with the goals that you have for the relationship. I'd say you plural, right? Because it should be a two-way thing. I feel like I'm not trying to read you to filth here. I'm just trying to give you an honest reading, because a lot of YouTube won't, right? But I feel like part of your fear that this person's going to pull you down with them in some way, whether that's that they have mental health stuff, whether that's that they're in the wrong crowd for you, whether it's that you've curated a certain lifestyle or environment and they're not part of that. I think part of your fear about that is actually an acknowledgement within yourself that you're not done there, that there's still some stuff that you're afraid of being swayed by, or afraid of like falling back into again. And if you weren't afraid of it, you wouldn't have such problem with them, or with these other people, or with where they hang out, or their slowness even, right? Their kind of crooked treeness of being a bit all over the place, and you're like, just don't approach me right now, I'm busy. That may be legitimate at your end, absolutely. You might have commitments, you might be, I'm hearing Romeo and Michelle now, a very busy businesswoman, right? That may be the case, but I feel like there wouldn't be such a hesitancy from your end if there weren't more to examine in terms of what it is that you think they're going to do that will destroy the progress you've made. Because if it's truly progress, it will be impervious to other things. And also, if you're dealing vibrationally with stuff, then you have to ask yourself whether your beliefs about manifesting certain things are or are not impervious to outward circumstance in terms of who you're around and what they're doing, right? Because if, for some of you, you're on a journey where you've had a massive glow up and you do believe you're a master manifestor or a powerful magician or a powerful witch or whatever it is, and yet you're fearing almost like people that you either look down on or feel you've left behind. But it's like, which is it? Are you all powerful? Do you create your own reality? Do you affect circumstance with your spell work, your prayers, your sigils, whatever it is? Or are you actually at the behest of everything else and you're just afraid of using those things to cope? And I'm not saying that that's what it is, but I'm saying like choose one, because they're not beliefs that go with each other. And that might be this Five of Clubs as well. Like you're fighting within yourself, sort of, right? And again, the statement on that, you can move mountains, rivers, trees. You can determine what your world is like. It's not up to your extraneous circumstance. If you really believe that you're deciding what your future is, then decide on it. And don't be afraid that this person's going to kind of rattle it, right? But I think that you're almost like, you're both in hesitancy here. Them because they feel that your reactions aren't quite where they thought, where they hoped they would be, and that they don't really know what your reservation is, and they're like a bit sort of, I feel like I'm offending this person, I'm not sure why, so I won't come forward yet, I'll keep planning. And you're in hesitancy because you're like, this person's great and I really like them and I maybe do want to deepen this or go further or whatever it is, but I feel like they're gonna undo what it is that I've managed to achieve for myself vibrationally or gravitationally. And that's actually because of an unacknowledged thing within your belief system, that you think other people can sway you. You think other people can drag you down still. And I do readings for everybody on this channel, and some of them will be like, you know, you are under psychic attack or whatever, like you have, like the last one I believe at this point, or one before last, was about like someone wanting to take revenge on someone, and it was a heads up to people who will be affected by that. But then there are also parts of my audience that don't believe that they will be affected by that, even if it's happening, because they're vibrationally altering what it is that they experience, or they're manifesting, or they're casting for something different, right? Or they're praying for something different even. And you're being called in this reading to ask, like, what is your belief about that? Do you believe that other people will shove you this way and that in terms of your progress by existing, by doing their own thing, or indeed by loving you? Particularly if in your background there's any kind of problematic relationship to receiving love. There's any kind of mixed experience with that, of like punishment, reward, or again, beeping confirmation, right? I think you heard that. But it's like if you experienced, you know, neglect, or love that was transactional and exchange based, or a lack of love, or outright abuse, or any of the above, you know, or anything similar, then look at your relationship to receiving love in terms of what you believe about like how the world will influence you, and go back to those early experiences and go, right, we all see our caregivers and our immediate environments when we're very, very young as being like the world acting upon us, because in a sense it is. Our survival is dependent on how other people behave. So we will accommodate those behaviours by developing attachment styles and just general coping mechanisms, right, that respond to the level of unpredictability around us, where love and indeed provision are concerned. Have you carried something like that into your present? And provision is a big one when you're getting a Pentacles card coming out as your kind of clarifying oracle. Because again, the Four of Pentacles is about keeping it all to yourself, whether it's love or money, right? We say all the time on this channel, the Four of Pentacles is the magic penny song. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many they'll roll all over the floor. It's kind of a spiritual law of the universe, but it's so difficult to put into practice when you've had a withholding of love or provision, or a complex relationship to either in your recent or your distant past. And I think that whatever this dynamic is with this person, who I think you want to hear from, or you probably wouldn't be here, there's something weighing in about that, and about whether you feel like you're all right regardless. And maybe there is a sense that they would give you a bit of gravity in a good way, and that they would anchor you to a place and a sort of, not a purpose, because you don't want to put that in another person, but they would help back up your own sense of purpose that you have about yourself maybe, or they would reinforce who it is that you've become in a positive way. But there is also like a hesitancy to even share that with someone fully, to share yourself with someone fully. And I don't think it's particularly fair to put all of that into them. Not the expectation that they'll do that, but all of the energy of like, I don't know whether I want to share that. That needs to be healed before you can step forward with them, right? So there might be like, I need to step back even if they do come in with this stuff, and explain that you're not stepping back because of anything to do with them, but because your hesitancy tells you something about you that you need to work on, and then you'll be right back. Yeah. The other overarching theme of the reading was the Six of Wands reversed. So you're kind of scared of a lack of success in a very literal sense, right? It's like the rainbow over the reading, rainbow being like the fulfillment of the covenant in the Abrahamic sense, is that the promise fulfilled for you needs to be a success, or you're not entering into this. And there are some very strict conditions around that. But nobody can predict whether a relationship is going to be a success, no matter how good their footing, no matter how great the other person's footing, lifestyle, progress, spiritual awareness, friendship group, family, none of it, right? None of it is a guarantee that it will always work out, because circumstance can happen and different people can go in different directions. There is not going to be a way that this person can reassure you that it's all going to be fine. So I think you're being asked really whether it's worth it if it's not. Like, okay, if it does go badly, 20 years into the future maybe, will you have been glad that you tried at all? Because I feel like they're asking themselves that in like trying to come forward towards you. They're going, is it worth the risk of rejection in some form for me to approach this person who seems a little closed off but is everything I kind of want, knowing that it will make me feel like crap if it doesn't hit the way I want it to hit, right? And that's why the nervousness, and that's why they're having to go into full mode and be like, fuck it, I don't care. And doing what my friend does, which is to think and plan and you know, for days and days and days, and give very articulate responses, and then just in the moment just be like, fuck it, we're doing this. It's almost like you're being invited into a similar process where you already have the planning mode and the be prepared scout thing and all of this, and you're very sort of stable in your life as far as I can tell. You may not always feel it, but you've got a good standing, or you wouldn't have these coins to protect. X-Men is relevant for some of you. Anyway. But yeah, you're almost being invited to this other energy, this full energy, and near future energy for them might be a good near future energy for you, where you actually just go, fuck it, yeah, I'm going to throw these things into the floor and see what lands. Even if you feel like you need protecting from it. Right, let's look at these cards just as cards first. So I'll cover the places a little bit for myself. So we've got a 9 of Wands, a Queen of Cups, a Knight of Cups, and a 6 of Cups. So just as cards without the London stuff. I feel like this is reading you because this was reading them more, right? So there's a little sense of being a bit wounded or taking some time out here. There is a sense of like wanting to embrace the emotions in a more thorough way, or like having a life that maybe the emphasis in your life up until late hasn't really been on your emotional life. It's been on getting things in order or getting your ducks in a row kind of thing. And you've done very well at that, but it's almost like that is giving you a craving for this like gestural romantic stuff. It's putting you back into that like Hollywood romance ending kind of an energy where you want to experience being a bit more emotional with someone, and that is part of your success, because we've got a 6 over here and a 6 over here, not from the same suit, right? There is a childlike nostalgic energy to this inner desire for you to express love with this person. There is a sweetness. You're acknowledging this childlike nature that we've already spoken about in them by bringing out your own kind of 6 of Cups, your own sense of that within yourself, and embodying it in the Knight, whatever gender you are, right? The Knight of Cups is a very romantic figure. It can be someone who does throw caution to the wind and is quite gestural and is quite, you know, there may almost be like a desire deep down within you for professions of love in both directions, and for emotional communication to be more open in both directions. And it might surprise you that you're getting a communication reading kind of from them, and I'm asking you almost to communicate more about what you want emotionally. Because what I'm sensing is that you've come to like, maybe not even just my reading, but to like YouTube as a place and tarot readers in general, to be like, what are they thinking? What are they about to say? Almost out of a desire that you express what it is that you want to say. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? In a perfect world, what would you be about to say? In a world where you trusted that only good things would happen, how would you express yourself to this person? How would you talk about all of these dynamics with the people and places around them? Like, if you trusted that things were going to be fine, how would that affect what you choose to do next? I don't think you thought of that, or not in a sort of conscious way of like, I am the person in control of this. I can move mountains. I can determine what my world is like. And it's almost less important what they're about to do or say than it is how you're embodying that Queen of Cups, Knight of Cups energy of fluid expression of what you actually feel instead of what you think you should say or be putting forward, or what you think is safe to express at this time, considering what you've built, right? Because the Queen co-rules the kingdom. You've worked on stuff here. You've, like, glow up is the right word. You've really had a complete transformation of yourself and your surroundings, I think, whether it's recent or whether it's like over a longer period. And I think there is like a fear within you that getting closer to someone in some respect, even if it's already an established relationship and this is just like a closeness of expression or an intimacy of emotional depth, I think that there is like a fear that it's a threat that might even be leading to a little bit of sabotage. And that sabotage has good reasoning behind it. You want to preserve your money, you want to preserve your housing, you want to preserve the good people that you've now gathered around you in place of maybe influences that weren't so great once. You want to carry on with the good habits that you've developed. It's very like single, soft life, that girl sorted kind of an energy. But there needs to be room in that cracking open for love. And that's what Spirit's trying to like get in for you. It's like, it's almost like you made all this so that you could be the star in your own romantic comedy. You built this life forgetting that kind of the reason you wanted to build it and be in this position and be living where you are and being around the sorts of people and environments that you're around is because you wanted to set the stage for something that was deeply emotionally resonant in your life. And I hate to say it, but that thing is trying to knock at the door and you're not answering. Or at least you're like, should I answer? I don't know. I'll go online. I'll see. Which, hard relate, right? So, what am I getting from the places here? We've got a massive church or cathedral. I don't actually know where that is. I'm not going to show you because that makes me a terrible Londoner and I've been here a while now. Then we've got Westminster, right? So there's emphasis on institutions here. There's emphasis on collective places of worship, on religion, on politics, maybe some differences there in terms of like what it is that you feel is coming between you or could come between you. There's also like a sense of grandeur here. There's maybe like you wanting to be in places that have history or prestige or, you know, these kind of like big architectural structures to me are communicating an energy of meticulousness and things that have been worked hard on and things that have been very crafted, very intentional over perhaps even hundreds of years. There is an ancestral legacy coming into the present for you where you're like, I'm not going to throw away all my hard work because I've built the cathedral of my life. But again, and this has come up in a reading before, that cathedral is almost like a scaffolding around you that is like Gundam armour. It's like, can you even see through it at this point? Or do you have to like run up the stairs to a certain little window and peek out? I see what it is that you've built and I almost don't want to read against you or like critique you too much because I really admire this energy that you're bringing of completely transforming your own life, your own mindset, maybe even the way that you physically present, right? And you worked hard on that, that's evident. But it's almost as if now that you've done that, you're hiding in it, watching the outside world through a little crack in the wall. And that's not a way to live or love or be loved. Then we've got Tower Bridge, which again is given the same sort of structural energy, but it's also like, I think of the Tower of London, even though it's not the same thing, and I think of like being imprisoned in something again. And then finally we have Piccadilly Circus. Now Piccadilly Circus to me is somewhere that I pass through when I'm with friends and we're going somewhere exciting. And there's always big lights and there's always big, you know, signs everywhere, and I'm usually with someone where we're laughing. It's just a thing. I'm going to show you more. It's also like logos and labels, so I don't know whether there's something about that for you that like maybe this person wears logos or labels in a way that you find a little bit tacky or a little bit trashy, or perhaps it's the other way around where you have like, you will only adorn yourself with certain things, you will only buy certain brands, you are very much an Apple rather than an Android or something like that, and it's like this person is the opposite or doesn't care about that stuff and that's bothering you. But there's something about that labelling and branding and stuff like that going on with it. But to come back to what I was saying about it being like a transition place, like a liminal space of joy and of lots and lots of information going on, and maybe you don't take it all in and maybe it's just like this wonderful experience to kind of be washed in, right? These neons that are completely constant and transient and everything. It's almost like the universe is pulling you more towards that kind of an experience than one that is, I want to say, austere in these buildings over here. Right? I didn't expect this to be an architecture reading, but here we are. And that's not a slight against Gothic architecture or any other period involved in this, because I love that shit. But there is a seriousness to it. And I think you're being asked to let go of that, because in the end, this is a Six of Cups. And in the end, this was a 6 as well. Your success was a 6. And they were the Fool. And if you turn this upside down, you get friends hanging out. You get joviality. You get Piccadilly Circus energy, right? Passing through, laughing with a friend. And as I said, this is a deck about my personal associations. And they are always joyful there. I never stay there, but I'm always happy that I pass through. It's that. There's something else about that. The girl, what's it called? I've been watching a lot of like unusual short films or avant-garde short films recently. And there's a director called John Smith that I really enjoy, a British director. And he's got, what's it called? The girl chewing gum, that's it. Watch that short. If I can remember, I'll link it below in the usual places. But there's something about the girl chewing gum and about the distance, because it's set in London, right? And that's why I thought of this, because it's this same kind of energy, but not in the same spot. Not far off, actually, but not there. There's something in the girl chewing gum about the distance between what's happening in front of us and what we narrate that's happening. And it does really interesting things from a cinematic perspective. It's available on YouTube and it's only a few minutes long, so you can watch it. But the way he makes the film is a commentary on that distance, and it's a comedy film. But it also sort of tells you about constructed reality and about what we tell ourselves in order to believe certain things, and about being in kind of two places at once in terms of what's really happening and what we would like to be happening, or indeed, pick up confirmation, what we're communicating is happening to somebody else, right? So I really think, I'll link it down below, but I think that would be useful to anyone who's kind of patient with, unusual films or short films or funny oddities on the internet. Yeah, I'm shuffling these again, so I almost want to close out with like something extra they would be saying, because I think the work that you have to do here, and I don't want it to feel like work, right? Because a lot of it's very playful. A lot of it's just getting back into like being awash with neons, having a laugh with someone that you really are developing feelings for, right? Or have feelings for. But there's something else here. So the one that's at the top here is, our beliefs and values fit together so perfectly. So if there was any reservation, religiously, politically, anything like that, I don't think it's something this person shares, right? I'm going to get one more and then I'll flip that other one over. No, I only want one more. Don't argue with me. I have a surprise for you and you're going to love it. Are you open to surprises? Right? Because romantic gesture, as embodied by this Knight of Cups energy that you've got with the Jack here with Tower Bridge, that's very spontaneous, right? You can't really be in a romantic comedy if you're not open to spontaneous romantic gesture. If when it comes to the sort of big climax of the movie and one person is about to declare their love for the other, in a big dramatic way, the other person goes, I'm really sorry, I hate surprises, I'm just gonna go. Can you imagine? Like, think of your favourite romantic film right now and end it with the other person just being like, listen, I think you're going to do something and I'm just not up for it right now and I need to be at home working on this project, so I'll see you in a few weeks. When you put it like that, it feels ridiculous, no? But that is what's happening right now. Again, I'm not trying to mock you or make fun of you or like accuse you of anything, because you're not doing anything wrong, and I've been in this energy even very recently. But it's like, if you want the big romantic behaviour, you have to be open to spontaneity, you have to be open to surprise, you have to be open to receiving. I'll always be here for you if you need me. I think that if you do need a bit of time to step back and work some of this out, even if it's just like a couple of days or whatever, just to get your head round the things I've said here, because it did end up being a heavier reading than I thought, and I'm sorry for that. But I think that if you communicate well to this person that you need a couple of days and it's absolutely nothing to do with them and it's actually fantastic that they've stepped forward, but you have some you stuff to figure out, I think they'll be there at the end of that. I think they'll be waiting on the other side of it, right? They'll always be here for you if you need them. And what that's making me think of, although it's not present in the cards this time, is at the end of Labyrinth, when all the goblins appear in the mirror again, even though her room is like, I think they appear in the mirror and then she realises they're in the room with her as well. But at first they're just in the mirror. And they say something like that. They say something like, if you need us, we'll always be here. I think it's that. And it's almost like an element of the inner child then is saying, listen, if you need to come back to me and just have fun, if you need to just let go, if you need to throw caution to the wind, perhaps through this person, because you're feeling the threat of gravity right now, through them or through general stuff, it will always be here. And actually, that's a lifting sensation, not a gravitational pull. So no matter how much you fear that this person may pull you down or spin you off or whatever, what's coming through from spirit is this sense of like elation and lightness and relief almost. I think that's what I want to end on, really. It's like, whatever this person's doing, whatever you're doing successfully, right? Wouldn't it be a relief to be loved? If you'd like to book a reading with me, it's 20% off all through August. If you don't want to and you found this in any way useful, please like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. I will be back with you for the next one. I'm sorry I've like dragged you a little bit here, but honestly I am only dragging my own former energy and I completely understand where you're coming from. Very proud of you, Petal. You've done really well, you've built a life for yourself. Now go get your girl, guy or other.